Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Let's see, you have the supervisor's financial report. You see I've scratched it all over. We're having a problem with that particular part of the program. It keeps pulling in old information. So like there's two accounts that it keeps pulling up that are closed, and there's two accounts that are zeroed out that it's showing either negatives or some money in it. We're working on with the software folks to find out how to fix that, because it shouldn't be pulling up 2-year-old information, which it's doing. So take that supervisor's report with a grain of salt. Hopefully next month's will look different. And we have a person addressing the board, Cody Douglas, Clinton County Health Department. If you saw on the news, in the paper, the town of Champlain just had something this morning on the news about this program. He's with the food waste program, so take it away.
Absolutely. So we just have some little handouts we've made, some information about it. If you don't mind taking one, passing it around. Awesome. Perfect amount of copies. So, as Deborah had mentioned, my name is Cody Douglas. I'm a senior public health educator at the Clinton County Health Department, and I work in our Health Planning and Promotion Division. And I'm here on behalf of our eSmart Waste Less grant. It's got a longer name through the DEC, which we received the funding from. It's the Municipal Food Scrap Recycling Initiative. It's a mouthful, so we just coined it our own thing. So eSmart Waste Less Clinton County. So I'm here to discuss the problem of food waste and some opportunities that the town of Dannemora might be able to partner with us on to reduce food waste in our in the community. So the U.S. wastes more food than any other country in the world. We waste a staggering 92 billion pounds of food every year, and that's about 40% of all food in the U.S. that gets thrown out. Right here in Clinton County, they estimate that around 20 million pounds ended up in the Clinton County landfill in 2021. And if you, to put that into a little bit more perspective, the average family of 4 is estimated to waste around $3,000 every year on uneaten food. So just, that's money that you're essentially just tossing out into the garbage in uneaten food. In Clinton County, almost 1 in 5 people struggle to regularly access healthy food, and nearly 1 in 3 residents worry about running out of food before they can purchase more, or actually have run out of food before they can afford to purchase more. So our food pantries are super important in our community, and that's another area that this grant is working to support as well. But it's not just about hunger, it's also about the environment. So when wasted food ends up in the landfill, it wastes resources. It also produces methane gas, which is a known greenhouse gas, and it's contributing majorly to climate change. So as I had mentioned, around 40% of all food in the U.S. is thrown away, and 43% of all food waste happens in our own homes. So that's all the food that we are purchasing that we think is spoiled, that actually has spoiled and gone bad. That's all food that we've thrown out. So that's about 43% is what they estimate. To put that into a little more perspective as well, that's about 1 pound of food per person every single day. But the good news is that a local survey revealed that 92% of participants said that they were interested in reducing food waste and that it's important to them. So we have some community interest. We've been conducting some resident interest surveys in all the towns that we've been partnering with. And it's been about 80% have said that if a program was available to them, they would utilize it. So, and this morning we had about just under 20 participants come and register in the village of Champlain. So really excited about that. So where do we start? So by reducing food waste and diverting it from landfills, we can tackle climate change. We can also improve local soil quality because a lot of the compost that's generated from our local haulers is kept local. So that means that we're supplying our local farms, creating healthier foods that way, and it can also extend the life of our landfill. So if the town were to partner with the Clayton County Health Department, we could help you expand, you could help us, expand the reach of our educational messaging. So we've created a number of different educational materials that we are supplying to residents that partner with us on this program or that register for the programs in the towns that we're working. We also have some tips and resources that we've been sharing through our social media. We have some posters that we've created. We've been doing some educational sessions. So we could all do that with the town. We could conduct those educational sessions for any interested town members. I went to Moore's. They had at their public library, they had me come and present on food waste. They had a ton of participants come out. I think it was like 20 or so. Great turnout there. So there's the opportunity to engage the community and educate them on this effort as well. So with partnering with us, if you decided to, we could field a resident survey to determine if there's interest within the town of Dana Moore's residents. And with that, we can supply you with a little one-page summary findings, just so that you can understand what the residents were saying a little bit more. And it'll just help us better understand if there's any interest in this program to reduce and recycle any food waste that's being generated. So with that, you could also establish a centralized food scrap collection location. So with the town and village, they each decided, the town is doing 2 locations and the village has decided to do 1 location in Champlain. So with that, we can help you try to identify some locations. And I know Deborah and I had talked a little bit about this, about where some locations could be in the town, just so that we're making it as accessible as possible to residents. We don't want everyone to have to cart their food scraps in the back of their car 20 minutes. So we want to make sure that it's accessible as possible and available to every resident that's interested. So with that, we do have 2 food scrap haulers in our area. So we have River Valley Regeneratives, and they're based out of Redford. It's a small local-owned company. They actually are the ones that are hauling the food scraps that are collected at Champlain. They've been working with other townships. They actually just expanded and now they're up into Saranac Lake and Tupper Lake area. They took over Blue Line Compost and their customers, so they're expanding, which is great. There's a lot of buy-in for this, these sorts of programs throughout the region. And Casella also recently started doing some food scrap collection. So they're also doing municipal, or they're interested in doing municipal pickup. They're focused a lot right now on commercial pickup, and they're interested in partnering with us as well, if possible. So with that, with the grant funding that we do have, we have the money to supply any residents with the resources to collect their food scraps at home. So we actually just supplied the town and village of Champlain with a bunch of 2-gallon like countertop collectors. They can also fit right under the kitchen sink, and we also purchased them some 5-gallon buckets. So those 5-gallon buckets are great for larger families, for one, or people that have limited resource for transportation or just are incredibly busy, so they can't go every week to go dump their food scraps. With the buckets that we do purchase, I have been testing the one at home that I received at a summit, and we decided to go forward with these ones. They have a ventilated lid, so when the food starts to break down in that container, the CO2 that's generated is able to release from the container, so it doesn't get trapped like it does in your garbage can, and then kind of smell bad, right? It doesn't get everything wet and smelly. So I actually went to the Peru School District, had their Earth Fest, and I brought my bucket with me, and I had moldy lettuce. I had a 4-week-old hamburger in there with some bacon, and I had it sitting right on the table. The kids would come over, I'd do my little session with them, and then I'd ask, did you not want to come over because I smelled? And they were like, no, it doesn't smell. And then I'd open it up, and they were disgusted. But the important thing is that you couldn't smell it. So this is great. It means that you can collect it right in your kitchen. You don't have to worry about it smelling. In addition to that, that's also food that you're putting in this bucket and it's staying out of your trash. So it's gonna make your trash services, if you pay with like a private hauler, or if you have a couple of toters from like a seller or something, you might be able to cut down on the amount that you have. Or if you bring it to the landfill yourself, that's less weight that you're going to be having in them, because it's not going, the food won't be in those trash bags. So with that, we can purchase those resources. We fill all of those buckets with educational information. So we are trying to educate about preventing food waste in general. So we give some tips on how to do that. So shopping your pantry first, shopping a little smarter, understanding food date labels more appropriately. They estimate that around $7 billion worth of food is thrown out every year because people don't understand food date labels. So they'll see a Best By date and it went past that. I know my aunt and grandmother are like this, and they'll see it, it's bad. They'll dump it down the drain or they'll throw it out, but that's not typically the case. They recommend that you use your senses, you look at it, you smell it, you might even do like a little taste if you're brave, just to really see if it's spoiled or not. Those date labels are typically just to indicate a product's peak quality. Except for on infant formula, then it's a safety label. So we're trying to educate people on preventing food waste, and then we're offering them ideas for ways to prevent it from ending up in a landfill or even having to be put in one of these collection buckets. So we have some information on donating to our local food pantries, the different areas that are available. I know that there's the location here, right here for Dannemora residents. We also have information on other programs that are available that are open to the public for food scrap drop-off. So at the, for example, the Farmhouse Pantry in Saranac, they have a food scrap collection bucket available there, and that's managed by River Valley Regeneratives. There's some in the city of Plattsburgh, that's what I use. So there's some that are already open to the public, but these, this program that we're working on with the different towns would be specific to the residents so that they're getting all the resources necessary. With the grant funding, we can also cover the cost of hauling of these food scraps. And I do have some information about the cost. Our grant cycle technically ends at the end of this year. However, we're expecting that with the progress that we're making, and we had some delays in getting the funding from the DEC originally, we are expecting that we'll be able to write in for at least a 6-month extension. So with that, when we wrote for the grant, we were able to cover up to 12 months of hauling. So we're hoping that we'll be able to at least offer that. But the funding definitely extends or goes through the end of this year at the very least. So in addition to that, we would recommend, if you were to partner with us, that you could provide these food scrap collection buckets at any community events that you host or that are hosted in the town. So if there's any like field days or trunk or treats or anything where there's a lot of community members present, just offering those services as well, just to make it more available to the community and more known in the community. You could also place and maintain food scrap collection bins in municipal offices or buildings if interested, and we can also supply those resources. We can provide educational materials to any employees or community members about food waste reduction. We even have a series on our YouTube page with a section specifically on reducing food waste in the workplace. And then lastly, you could also adopt a municipal level food waste reduction policy to show your dedication to a more sustainable, equitable, and prosperous community. And we have some sample policies available as well if you were interested in adopting one. So in terms of cost, so with River Valley Regeneratives, they typically do a 32 or a 35 gallon toter. So basically it's just a smaller garbage container that you will typically see from Casella. So they charge per pickup, so depending on how many bins you have, the number of locations, and how frequently it's picked up determines how expensive it would be. But they charge $15 for one bin per pickup. But if there's more than one bin, so if you have more than one location, they charge $12 per bin per pickup. They offer a 2-week free trial, and they have been collecting, as I said, they'll be collecting now from Champlain, They've been collecting from the town of Chesterfield at their transfer station since September of this past year, and they've collected over 2,400 pounds of food scraps from them alone. So they're doing a great job. And then Casella also, they just started this past fall. They're doing excellent work as well. So they offer a 48-gallon size toter. They pick up weekly, and then they charge $70 per month plus taxes and fees. So theirs is on a monthly basis rather than a per pickup. In the warmer season, River Valley picks up weekly, and then when it's cooler out, they pick up typically once every 2 weeks. So with their bins, they'll often line them with like sawdust or hay at the bottom to soak up any kind of juices from the food sitting in there to help reduce the odor. Casella, they have a compostable bag that their bins are lined with, so they take that bin out or the bag out and replace it with a fresh one when they come to pick up. River Valley, they do a fresh bin swap, so it's always a clean bin that gets left. And then we were in the resident surveys that we were doing, there were some concerns about smell. One, just smelling in the community, two, it attracting wildlife. And I attended a summit back in April, and I heard from different municipalities that have established these sorts of programs, and they decided to purchase some sheds, some like small horizontal like outdoor storage sheds to actually house the bins. So with that, we actually did that for the town and village of Champlain as well, because they had that concern as well. So the bin itself sits right inside that shed, and then the shed is locked. So it prevents contamination of trash from any residents that kind of see it. Might think, hey, I can throw my trash out for free here on the side of the road. So it prevents that. It reduces odor even further because the bin itself has a lid, and then it's locked inside that shed to reduce it even further. And then it's clearly outlined that it's for food scraps, so we have some signs on those sheds as well. But that's all I've got for you, but I'm open to any questions.
So what's our next step, Cody? So you need, say the town wants to partner with the health department, what do we do next?
So I would recommend a resident interest survey, and we can put that together. We'll create like a little flyer, a social media post, and we can even do some printed posters if you wanted to hang around town, just to try to really engage your community. And if you have other ideas of ways to engage them better, we're obviously open to sharing it however we possibly can. We want to hear from as many people as possible. So I would recommend that being the next step. If we decide to go further after that, say there's a lot of engagement, people really want this, you could then adopt a policy if you were interested. It's not a requirement by any means. And then we would just start to kind of look at where we might need some bins, how many we might need, and then it would be up to you entirely who you decide to contract with. Like I said, we do have that funding to cover up at least through the end of this year for hauling. And then afterwards, say we don't get that extension, it would then be up to the town to, one, decide if they want to continue that program after that funding dries up from us, and two, it would then be on the town to pay for that hauling costs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, I don't see a drawback to doing this. I personally, we compost anyway at our house because we have enough acreage to keep it away from the house. But
Yeah.
I know in smaller areas or concentrated areas like in the hamlet of Lime Mountain, you're not going to want a compost bin in your backyard because your neighbors probably won't like you if you do. So I think that would be an ideal location. But I think we could make it work in this town.
Is that something you're seeing statewide across New York State, and more
Yeah, so
regions doing it?
Yep, so I actually just looked a couple weeks ago, and the New York State Association for Recycling, Reuse, and Reduction, I believe, it's NISR3 that they go by. They have a map of food scrap drop locations across the state, and there's over 200 locations right now.
Okay.
I believe in Clinton County, I think we're at I want to say it's 9 or 13. So we have a decent amount that are available to us, but right now we're just trying to expand as much as we possibly can. I will also say that there's the likelihood that we'll continue to see programs like this pop up. With the New York State's budget being passed, they just expanded this line item for food waste reduction, specifically where this grant comes out of. It was increased from $2.5 million to $5 million. So there's continuous investment from the state to to support these programs.
Thank you.
So Casella and this other company, they're both doing a compost system with this?
Yep. So they're both. So the business out in Redford, they have windrow style piles. So they're like really long compost piles, and they regularly turn them. And then Casella has an aerated static pile, is what it's called. So they have some like pipes that go underneath their pile that pumps air into it, and it helps circulate it, and that's how they function with their process. I believe that they just finished their first pile at Casella, and they're still trying to decide what they're going to do with all of the compost, whether they'll keep it all local or keep it as local as possible. And with River Valley, they keep theirs as local as possible as well. They sell back to local farmers. Their hauling truck that they use, they actually power with recycled vegetable oil from restaurants that they pick up from. So I was really impressed with that when I found that out. I didn't even know that it was possible. So they're both doing excellent work in the community.
Other states, are those other states doing it too, that are role model states? Or not?
Yeah, so Vermont actually requires it statewide. Even residents are mandated to divert their food scraps. So they're not supposed to put any food scraps in the trash. Right now in New York State, we just expanded our law back in December, but it only applies to like restaurants and other businesses. So it's now, if they generate 2 tons or more per week of food waste, they have to donate any excess edible food that they have and divert their food scraps. And I believe by 2028 or 2029, if they generate more than half a ton, so like 500 pounds a week, they'll be required to do that as well. So as of right now, we only have a few that are designated generators in our county. But we're expecting that within the next several years, we're going to see most of our restaurants kind of fall under that requirement.
Good.
All right,
Any other questions?
Well, quite thorough.
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Cody.
Yes, thank you.
I'll give you a call tomorrow or the next day.
Sounds great.
Okay,
All right. Thank you so much.
thanks, Cody.
Thank you.
Good night.
We can put all the milfoil in compost bin instead of dumping it in the green dump.
What's that?
We can put all the milfoil in
Oh, but the deer love that milfoil.
the compost.
Okay, well, that was,
That's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
so. All right, we'll discuss that at another time.
That's hot here.
All right, public comments on non-agenda items. Anyone? Okay, carry on. All right. I need a motion to approve the May bills. I'll read them out. You also see a correction on the bottom there. We took off, trusted agency, because it's very, and this is another thing we're trying to fix with this software, it's very deceptive because trusted agency are payments that come out of people's paychecks. So we've already shown, like, let's say, take highway, if they're in deferred comp. So we're already showing that we're paying them in the highway fund, and then it shows another line at the bottom in trusted agency that their money's going into deferred comp, and it looks like there's more money being spent, but it's not, it's the same dollars. So we're trying to get them to understand that we don't need to report the money twice. So I fixed it this time, and tomorrow we're having to come to Jesus with the software company, so. General fund, 22,877.37. Highway fund, $49,626.98. Town Hall Highway Garage Capital Fund, $102,063.40. You're gonna see big numbers in that category from now on, because that's where we're paying the contractors at the wastewater treatment plant. So those will be coming out of, that's where the money's gonna go into, and that's where we pay out of. Lime Mountain Lights, $939.37. Lime Mountain Sewer, $2,742.54. Denmore Sewer, $400.45. Lime Mountain Water, $5,476.41. Denmore Water, $25. Ledgers, $3,727.44, for a total of $187,878.96.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to pay those for May, total of $187,878.96.
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call, Jim?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Joey?
Yep.
Deb?
Yes. Next one is just to have the board allow me to approve me signing the shared services contract with the town of Plattsburgh.
Go ahead and make that motion, Debbie, for a signature on the shared services contract.
I'll second
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. Old business, the dam repair. We have the part. I'm just waiting for Seaway Diving to give me a date that they're gonna be here. It should only take one day for them to put the stem in, replace the stem. So I told them it had to be done by the end of June. And I'm just waiting for them to call. I send them an email about every other day, reminding them that I'm waiting for that.
Will that happen from in the water, or are they gonna,
They gotta go through the roof.
they gonna do all?
Yeah, well, there's already a patch, so obviously it was done before.
Yep.
So, they'll just take that patch off and put it down. They'll have to have a diver down in the water to connect it to the gate, but, it'll go through the roof. So. Lime Mountain Wastewater Treatment Plant project has started. Yeah, there's a big old hole in the ground there right now. They are hoping, the general contractor is hoping to have it done by the end of this year. He is really pushing to complete it by the end of this year. So fingers crossed that happens. That would be great. Like I said, we are already starting to pay the vendors, or we will be paying them. The bond amount of $3 million should be getting into our bank account tomorrow, as well as the $373,000 that's actually owed back to the general fund. Both of those amounts should be in our bank account in the morning. So, and once we have that, then we have the checks written for the contractors, but until we have the money in the bank, we're not sending the check. So that's ongoing, and hope for good weather and no problems with that. Veterans Park update. We keep getting issues with that. They ordered the wrong blocks at one point, so the blocks are now ready, but the huge truck that they use that transport the blocks is now down for repairs. I had that email, because they were supposed to deliver them today. And I have had that email in my email this morning from them that their truck was down and they were gonna get it fixed as soon as possible, which I'm sure they are, because they're losing a lot of business with that truck down. That's the one that moves all their stone, all their outdoor stuff, so.
You got a porta potty up there yet?
Yep, porta potties are all out. There's porta potty porta potty there, there's one at the pump house, there's one at Emmett King Park, there's one in Phillips Court, there's one up at the scales for those guys, and there's one at the beach. I think that's all of them.
There's one at the beach?
Yes. We always have a porta potty at the beach because, well, one, we don't open up the
Bathroom.
bathhouse, and when the lifeguards leave at night, they lock it because otherwise,
We know why.
we know
Yeah.
why. So, but there's always a handicap porta potty there, so it's right next to the lifeguard shack.
That's cool.
I have all the plantings for the Veterans Park, so as soon as we get the blocks in place, then we can put the topsoil down and then we can start planting, so. And when that happens, once we have that all happen, then I'll be reaching out to volunteers to come help me dig holes and put plants in
Where's
the
all your
dirt.
plants?
Hmm?
Where's all your plants?
They're in my garage right now. Yep, in their big paper bags that are, I check them, they're bare roots, so they're not, so they're still good. In fact, there's some of them that actually are starting to sprout leaves, so. I'm keeping them cool and dark and hoping that they just stay where they are right now. Lifeguards, I'm not getting the response back that I had hoped. A lot of my last year's lifeguards apparently are not interested in working the summer, or at least not for minimum wage. So if you know any kids that have lifeguard certification and looking for a summer job, send them my way. I do have a couple, and I've reached out to Saranac. A lot of times their kids love to come and lifeguard at Shazy Lake. Last year we used all our own, but if I open up to Saranac, I usually get some kids from there because it's a lot easier lifeguarding at Shazy Lake than it is at the Saranac pool.
On
So
post on the screen, on the board, but at the beach,
right now our board is
down,
down.
there's just time on it.
Yeah, the date and time is on it, and we're having issues with that board.
Is there a price these kids are shooting for? Are they going for other jobs that are?
I don't know. I know one of the things that last year we had an issue where they were lifeguards, 3 of them were lifeguards at NAC. And the beach opens at 11. They work till noon, so we had to have somebody fill in from 11 until they got there. And that was a big hassle because sometimes they'd get there at 1:30 or 12:30. Sometimes, they took a little longer. And so it was a scheduling nightmare. And then you have to keep them all under 40 hours a week. And when the same ones wouldn't show up, we had the ones that were always there. And it was difficult to keep them under 40 hours. So
So we
So
didn't
the-
get anybody?
this year, yeah, I've got 2 that have come back, and I haven't heard from Saranac yet. I just sent Jackie the email yesterday, and so I said no split shifts this year. We gotta, it's too difficult to, and some kids are not as reliable as others. So we have time. We'll beat the bushes for lifeguards.
Yeah, Mars a little cold swimming right now.
Yeah.
The update on the road closure in Lime Mountain. So here's the story. The county, and I argued with them to see if they could either delay it or get it done. If they could get it done before school starts, that would be great, but that's not the plan. So the plan is for replacing the bridge on Separator Brook, the August and September timeframe. They said, the county says it's gonna take 8 to 10 weeks. I don't understand why it would take that long, but that's what they're saying right now, and that would close that road. The highway guys were prepping the road through the mines for the use of the ambulance and the fire department. Frank Totino with Alliance Designs, that they're the ones that buy the sand. He was concerned because he would have to stop hauling at the end of July, So he asked if they could also use the road through the mines, and I said, well, I don't think that's what we're designing it for, so they offered to make that road, they brought in a bunch of gravel and topping to fix that road up at their cost. So they've fixed that road to the point where it will hold their trucks. If it holds one of their full trucks, it's gonna hold pretty much anything. Because we're talking.
Where's the road closure, what road?
Standish Road, so, you know, where the little bridges as you go up
On
through
the gas
Lime
station
Mountain.
side of the railroad station?
And towards Standish.
Yeah, right before the museum, that little bridge.
Oh,
So the road will close, that road will be closed,
So the
so.
county has no dice in this game? They're gonna take the bridge up and they're not concerned about anything else that goes on?
Well, they, you know, their initial thing was that Sunset Road is the detour. Because you go around Sunset, which is, I mean, it's okay, but it's not okay for those
It's not for
trucks.
10 weeks, it's
You're
not
gonna have
okay.
people
Yeah.
jumping on that ATV bridge and
That's
crossing.
what I said.
Well, and so
Especially if
here
they're-
is what, I'm having signs made that say that the use of the, going through the mines is for emergency vehicles only, or, you know, permitted vehicles, and anyone else is trespassing, because we can't, well, we don't wanna spend the money it would take to make that an actual road. So if somebody goes through there and they get mired down in the sand, or they bust something going through there with their private vehicle, we can't be responsible for that. There's too much liability to make that a thoroughfare for everybody. Plus, you know, we try to keep people off the sand pile. You open that up and now you've got 8,000 ATVs spinning up the sand. So I keep asking Carl, you know, is that truly that 8 to 10 weeks, is that honest to God how much is to close? Because it would seem to me that they would have a pre-built bridge that they could just take one up, put the other one in, but they are moving it a bit, and they've already moved the power lines, and they're gonna have to move water lines for us, because where they wanna put the bridge, we have water line running through there, and so at their cost, they're gonna have to move the water lines, so, it's still up in the air as far as, you know, when they start to really look at it. Is it gonna be doable, or, you know, how long is it gonna take? And I don't know if moving the water lines was part of that 8 to 10 weeks, or, and Carl really didn't have a lot of information for me last time I talked to him, so, that's another one to revisit, but that would be the end of July is when they're looking at starting that, which, again, the official detour is Sunset, and I've already told, Frank Totino that he could not bring his sand trucks on Sunset because it would just destroy that road. I mean, some of those curves, they would be on this side and
Yeah,
on
they'd
this
be in the
side.
ditch.
and-
You can have accidents on
And
that.
so they know they can't use Sunset, and so they're looking at other ways, and that was way so. They're putting the work into the building up that road that goes up School Hill
Yeah,
and down through in front of the mine buildings, and then out the gate.
That's pretty steep by the mine buildings. They're already going out, but coming back up there, that's deep in
and
it.
he's doing this rather than being allowed to extend in the fall. Interesting.
Yeah, when it would be less busy, he's doing it in the height of when it's gonna be people at the lake.
Well, the contract, you know, because originally I had said, okay, get all your hauling done by the end of July.
I think you're talking about the bridge itself, doing the bridge.
Oh, the bridge, yeah. And because they're doing the one in because they're also replacing the bridge in Standish, and that one's going to be done first. Because it's different contractors. And so when you're dealing with contractors, it's like, well, here's when we can do it because we're doing other work at another time. So it wasn't really that smart. Now, for people that are on the upper side of that bridge, if they're going to Plattsburgh, they can just go through go through Saranac, or go through Standish and then down that way. I know I've had to deal with this too with the contractors working at the wastewater treatment plant. I've already gone through everything with them, showed them the alternate routes. So if you have, and I told them if you have big equipment that you need to bring in, even if it's not time to put it in, you probably want to get it in place before the end of July, because you're not going to be able to go on Sunset if you're bringing in, 40-foot long whatever, and and going through Saranac is doable, but if you're not familiar with the roads, you could get lost. You might end up someplace you don't want to be. So, but that's the update on the road closure.
Sounds like the county doesn't have a very good descriptive plan of start and finish.
Well, they really don't, and I think, and it was obvious when they started saying, well, here's what we got to do, and Patrick said, that's where the water line is. And, he went round and around with NYSEG, was it NYSEG or Verizon? Who owns the poles?
Verizon.
So, because they wanted to put the pole right where a water line was, and he said, that is where the water line, well, this is where we have to put the pole. Well, you're not putting it there, because that's where a water line is, and they went around for like 2 weeks on that until they finally put the pole somewhere else, because it's like,
I don't think anybody else had to call 811 to dig. They should have never marked that to access their dig spot.
they didn't do the dig safe. I mean, obviously, when they showed up and said, this is what we're gonna do. So,
Wow.
Is that sort of,
and you can imagine Patrick had some choice conversations with them.
our bridge getting done before the one in Standish or after?
What's that?
This bridge getting done before the one in Standish
After.
or after? So that will be done and complete.
Yep. Because Luck Brothers is doing the one in Standish, and ING is doing the one in Lime Mountain. So, but stay tuned. I will keep
Wow.
pestering them and getting more information, and hopefully it's not. It's
Won't really be an effect on the kids, they already know how to ride this.
Yeah.
right. That's right. The busing situation
minimum.
sucks already.
Pay all the taxes they can't even find a bus driver.
Yeah, let's buy some more buses that can sit empty.
Start paying the
But I
driver.
digress. Anybody have any other old business?
I have a couple pickleball resurfacing.
Yes, I sent an email to him today to give me a date. I know I have people that have called and emailed me about putting the nets up. As soon as I hear back from him, if he says it's gonna be the end of the summer, then I'll go ahead and put the nets up. If he says it's gonna be in 2 weeks, then I won't, because we have to power wash the surfaces of the courts before they come, and so it all depends on. I hope to get an email from him tomorrow. He's difficult to reach because they're a small company that's doing all these pickleball courts. So
Yeah.
We gotta get that sign put back up at the Breakwater on 374. There was a C-Class motorhome in there
Yeah.
over
Oh,
Memorial Day.
Is the sign still up?
No.
someone took it.
I thought so.
Yep.
For what?
I kept an eye on it.
Yeah, I did too.
On beach, but it was the last part.
So
I
yeah.
don't know if we ought to take that, we ought to make that sign 10 or 12 feet high,
Mhm.
so they can't unbolt it and throw it in the bushes on us.
Yeah, they didn't even throw them in the bushes because Denny and I looked for that
Yeah,
sign,
I looked all over
and
there too.
and they just took it.
It's gone.
Someone needed a piece of metal, or they wanted a sign, or whatever, but they took that one. So I've got those on order too. I've got 2 more of those ordered from the county, and I'm just waiting for them to call me to come pick up signs. 'Cause,
Okay.
We gonna put on concrete this time?
I don't know. If somebody wants to take it, I can remember Pete Barber used an old what do you call it, blade off the plow, the edge off the plow, and he put a no swimming sign up at near the pump house, and people took it down and took the sign because they you're not gonna tell me not to swim here, kind of thing, so,
Is there enough concrete on the dike that you could, fasten it or enough concrete right there?
no, we can't do that to the dike.
4 holes, 10 counts?
Okay,
Anybody else have any old business?
Oh, they're still in for a few more parts coming for the lock system and
Okay,
they'll let me know.
Okay.
They'll set the date.
new business. So Clinton County Soil and Water reached out to me, about, Loneburg Road. The girl that is working this project regularly hikes there, and she sees how it gets washed out every spring. So they have a grant to do improvements on the road, to shed the water off to the side so it doesn't run down. So went out there last Thursday, because it was really cold and raining. And basically walked that. She took all the elevation measurements and distances and whatnot, and so they're looking at creating, can't remember what she calls them, but basically coming down the slope and going down a little bit and making little berms that come up so that, and they're at a 30-degree angle so that the water sheds off to the side and it doesn't wash the road out. And they're shallow enough so that if you're in a car, you're not going to, unless you're in a really low slung sports car, but if you're in a regular car, you're not gonna bottom out or anything. And there's 2 ways to do it, either just with earth and some kind of item, or they also they get all the old conveyor belts from Camoplast or someplace, and they use that heavy rubber and they sink it into the ground so that it's like this high up off the ground, and use it as diversion. So it's something you can drive over, but it'll also divert the water. It's not too bad for the top, but it's that bottom 300-400 feet that, you know, gets really washed out.
especially past the snowmobile trail, it really gets
Yeah.
washed out.
So she came and did all the measurements and whatnot, and she said it'd probably be a couple weeks for them to figure out how many would be needed and that kind of thing. So, but that's Clinton County Soil and Water. They
That's
get
good.
these oddle grants and.
Is it to the road itself?
Yeah, to the actual.
Like terrace the road a little bit?
Well, she said it, you know, she described it as it comes down, it makes a little dip and then comes back up so that you